गुड मॉर्निंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Today we're going to talk of the Nijuan curse and how it's weighing down on China. Look, it's like this. Why am I taking this? Because there's a lot of talk of Trump tariffs and discussion. Yesterday also I discussed on Jaipur dialogues. Have a look with Mr. Sanjay Dixit and Tahir Aslam Gora. And both of us brought different perspectives to the whole thing. Tahir Gora spoke more about from the Pakistani perspective. I spoke from the international perspective and things like that. And day before self, General Dushyant and Rajiv Narayanan, we had a discussion on this, right? A holistic discussion on P-Gurus. Now I'm switching to China. Look, the point is that many of us feel that we should now gravitate towards China. Many people are talking of it. Now that USA is not reliable, let's talk of China. But we have to understand China before we take that leap. That is why what I'm going to do is today now I'm going to talk of the actual state of China. Where is China in this whole game? What is its internal problems? And today evening with Gayatri Devi, I'll talk about India, China. So today, now it will be more China, China and China. Evening it will be India and China in this current context, right? Timing will know 7:30. That's a different thing. So just stay tuned. Those of you who are not subscribed to Gana Shot, you want high quality analysis, yeah, come to Gana Shot. So subscribe to Gana Shot, like this video, okay, and support Gana Shot. Let's get down to this fundamental thing, and let me put it in context. What is this thumbnail which I put? See it very closely. It carries a lot of value, and that's why I picked it up. This is a headline of the thumbnail of an article in South China Morning Post, which I'll talk of. But look at this picture. There's a Chinese man who's carrying weights, and one side is deflation, the other side is job worries. You look at the skyscrapers behind. On one side is China's economy with the arrow going up, and the other side is exports where exports are going up. Can you think of this kind of a contradiction? Deflation, job worries on one hand, and that's on the common man. And there's China with all its skyscrapers, economy going up, exports going up, still in a mess. That's the China which you have to understand. We need to understand before we jump into it. That's why I picked up China today. Right. And I see what Amitabh Behra saying China and China. Well, let me tell you, whatever, doesn't matter what Trump says or doesn't say. Our problem is still China, and we don't understand it. Because we don't understand it, we are carried away. People like Amitesh ask me questions. Sir, China does this, China does that. But the reality of China, people don't understand. Okay, right. And you pick up data and data points and theories from people who have absolutely no clue of China, whether strategically, militarily, diplomatically, economically. What is their thinking? And those guys who have gone to China and seen China are the worst. Okay, let's look at where China is in this Trump tariff map. This is the Trump tariff map. Okay, in this Trump tariff map, if you see all these orange countries like India, Canada, Brazil, South Africa, and many countries in Africa, these are all in the 25% category. 25% category. The blue ones are those which have done deals: EU, Great Britain, Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, Philippines, all these. They're all in the 15% category of tariffs, right? This yellow, China and Mexico, are at the highest levels. And China is somewhere around 35 to 45%, depending on what you pick up. It's the highest level, it's an outlier. The others, the light gray ones, are at 10% standard base tariff. So the point I'm trying to make is China still remains Trump's focus. And that is the interim thing till the deal is made. And the deal is not yet made. It is far away from being made. You know, when you talk of India, at least something is on the horizon. You feel he's negotiating, he's threatening, and all that. That's known. But with China, they passed that. And that has had huge effect on China. Unlike on India. India, we might have an effect, we will have an effect. But on China, it's had an out of turn effect. And that's what we're going to. And you combine what has happened in China because of the tariffs and the structural problems with which China is suffering, then you see the picture of actual China coming out. And that is what I'm going to do. That's why I'm starting with Trump tariffs, but I'm going to head into China. I'm going to talk more of China. And today, China is consumed by this word. If there are two words China is consumed by, two words. One is Trump tariffs, Trump. The second word is Nijuan. Nijuan is a curse. What is Nijuan? It is involution. And I'm repeating it again because people have to understand this. What is Nijuan? Nijuan is a concept from sociology that refers to a society that can no longer evolve, no matter how hard it tries. One dictionary terms it as curling inwards. So it's an inward in revolution. Involution is an inward revolution. You revolve, but you do it inward. When you revolve outside, you evolve and you grow. In this, you involute. This problem has not gone away from the Chinese story. In fact, it is becoming worse. It was there bad. It was as bad as it is before the Trump sanctioned regime. But after the Trump sanctioned regime, it has increased. This is it. You see this heading? This is from Guancha. This anti-internal volume is the focus of China's current policy. बस उनका दिमाग में यही है कि anti-internal. In involution, they call it Nijuan. Nijuan. In Mandarin, it is Nijuan. It is anti-internal. So it is the focus of China's policy. And that article is this. It says, pay attention to the Politburo meeting on anti-internal volume. See, the Politburo has met to see how they can get done with this Nijuan, how to get over this problem. But it's not easy. It's not going to happen. That's the thing. And if it happens, the costs to be paid. I'll talk of it. There are huge costs to be paid. Right? Now, I have to go back in time. 2 years back, 3 years back, what did Xi Jinping come out? High expectations on new productive forces so that we have sustainable growth engines. See these three things: high expectations, new productive forces, and sustainable growth engines. What were these productive forces? EVs, solar, magnets, and things like that. And that was supposed to be the new productive forces, which was to lead China into a new world. And it was supposed to be sustainable growth for China. Involution is exactly because of this. The fundamental thing is what we have to understand. Go back. Because most of us live in, today. You don't go back. You don't connect today for tomorrow. That is what I am trying to do. I mean, many people think, yeah, what is this chap talking? But I analyze. I see the entire pipeline. So this is one So the second headline: China's leadership is looking to unleash new quality productive forces. All their top economic advisors look at internally. See China's regeneration, achievements, challenges, and prospects. Professor Justin Yufu Lin, he's from Tsinghua. These are the kind of articles which came out, say, year, 2 years back, that how China is going to lead the world with their new productive forces. Then in the last two sessions, Xi Jinping came out with his grand plans, high tech, no, new productive forces. So, and then Li Qiang, who's the prime minister, he was sidelined. And it was all about Xi Jinping, new productive forces, high tech, and everything. He went around addressing everyone. We did shows on that. He didn't allow Li Qiang to speak. He had found the golden solution, as per him at that point of time, for all the problems that China had. Okay? And at that time, this kind of articles used to come out. Why China's plan for new productive forces should make the West sit up. The threat it posed to everyone. Even we felt, a lot of people said, look at China. Oh, it's where it's going. I'm going back in time. People must understand what's the current state of China. What was the current state of China 2 years back? How we all said, oh, they look at this, what they're doing. The same sectors are now involuting. And China has gone into a massive overdrive for involution. That massive drive for involution is going to have second, third order effects which are not imaginable at this point of time. So if we fall for Chinese propaganda, we are sunk. Let me tell you, we'll be sunk. That's why I'm de-propagandizing whatever China has come out with. So, and what set me off on this kind of a research, this article with this picture. What is this article all about? See the heading. The headings collected over a period of time tell you a story. You don't need great analysis. The headings tell you a story. People will say, I have a unique way of doing it, but I'm doing everything ground up. I'm not talking of theory. My research is ground up. What do the ground factors tell me? What do the journalists on the street tell me? Are they spinning a story to me, or are they telling a truth, or they have to come out with something? The heading, see this heading. Can China pass on the ground test to ace its economic report card in 2025 second half? The questions. I don't want to go into the whole thing. I can do a thesis on this. Then there is this great, South China Morning Post, if you go, it's getting hold of all the top economists and, sociologists and diplomats and all to talk and discuss China's problems. Unique series. I've not seen it earlier. I've been studying South China Morning Post for almost 10 years. Unique. Right. One of this, he says how China can turn polycrisis into polytunity. I mean, look at this heading. Forget about how China can do what it has to do. See the heading. This lady says China is in a polycrisis. Says China is in a polycrisis. And she's giving a polyunity and all that. I'm not bothered. The first fact point is operative. It's in a polycrisis. We have to recognize that. And this comes out as a special exclusive as part of that series from great experts, chosen experts. And these chosen experts are fundamentally Chinese. That is the thing. And then Kexon, which is their main, Kexon Global, which is their main, economic sheet, it comes out. China intensifies war on toxic competition as economy suffers. These are the headlines which came out. When did it come out? June 24th. 10 days back. 10 days back, that's the time when I started, 2 weeks. This is almost a 2 week accumulation of facts. I mean, my thing is very simple. 1-2 weeks, I come out with one of videos like this. I accumulate all the articles, and the most striking one I hit, and then that becomes the theme on which I talk. He says toxic competition. So the involution is toxic in nature to China. Very interesting, isn't it? And they themselves are saying, because they're suffering. One of the things about the Communist Party of China is that their records are absolutely, they believe a hell of a lot on the written word and the records. Everything is recorded in the communist system. So that their people whom they are communicating have no choice but to listen to it. That fellow is told, this is what you will do or not do. Otherwise you're sunk. ये नहीं कि यार हमने बता दिया, no sir, you didn't tell me, that kind. No, it's all written. The documentation in China is absolutely super, and this is not today based on AI Shai and all. This is historical. In culturally, you have more documentation in the Chinese culture than in the Hindu culture. This is a fact. That is why they come out with these articles, right? So it's a toxic competition going on. And they say they're intensifying the war. Let's see, what is it? Again, Guancha, anti-internal action needs to start from these three aspects. He's given three aspects. I'm not going to get involved. What China can do, not do. They're stuck. That we should understand. But again, repeatedly, these articles are dominating their headlines. Action. China acts to stamp out involution and unfair competition. By no one else, the beauty of this unfair competition is it is internal. This is not coming from America or India or Malaysia or Japan. It is coming from their own people. They want to stamp out involution. All their thing, we have to understand. It's not as if China didn't have this involution. China had involution in 2014-15, just after Xi Jinping took over. Post the global financial crisis, China pushed its markets up, all that, and they overproduced. And overnight, you have to go back in time, around 14-15. Their markets crashed. When their markets crashed, the correction was done. They said, stop overproducing. They did a lot of things. But when they did all that, it was in the state sector. The overproduction at that point of time was in the state sector, or the their SOEs, state-owned enterprises. This time, the involution is in the private sector. It's the small sectors. It's the bulk. At that time, the involution which happened was in the state sector, big players. They had to just bring down volumes. They had control over those state SOEs. They could control those 10, 20, 30, 40 SOEs, whichever number, and said, don't produce. And we'll take the hit. They took the hit. The stocks fell. And then they went into the private sector, expanded the private sector, let Alibaba go up, but that's it. That everything which China has done has resulted in a problem. Then Alibaba went in with the Ant Group for a global IPO, which threatened China's sovereignty, and hence Jack Ma was shunted out. That's the sequence. You have to go into that sequence to understand what's happening now. At that time, the involution and the overproduction was of the state-owned enterprises which they could control. Today, that's not the case. And there were a few handful then. Today, the problem is with private sector. And they are all small MSMEs and small players. People who make, bags, shoes, small things. which everything China, toys. These are the chaps who are involuting, plus high tech. Competition. So the competition is just not in high tech, it's across the board. Right? So there's a issue. And then they unveiled guidelines for anti-involution effect. The problem, whatever they do, what are they going to do? They're going to reduce production. Just think the effect on a factory. You curtail his production, any factory, curtail his production, his sales go down. As it is, they're working on very thin margins. Now here comes Trump tariffs. Trump tariffs have depressed them even further. Now, if with these margins, most of these Chinese factories are in the danger of going out. Now, if they collapse, there's going to be unemployment. There's going to be mass unrest at the bottom. And the economy will tank. If they don't have to collapse, then have to be subsidized. Subsidized means taking debt on. China can't keep subsidizing. Why don't other economies subsidize? They can't. So they're stuck. How can you subsidize? Okay, even if you subsidize and that allow that fellow to produce, where will you sell it? Where will you sell it? And if your PMI and production and all goes down, your GDP will go down. China is at a stage, it doesn't matter which way it swings, it's going to get hit. So they want, the only way out is consumption. This is what this headline says, right? It says what? It says China urged to curb Nijuan by boosting domestic consumption and innovation-led growth. We have seen where innovation-led growth has gone already. So the only way out is consumption, which they're not able to do. They're not able to do. Period. I mean, one has to understand this. Then you see there's a consumption conundrum because people don't want to consume. Why people don't want to consume? What is the consumption problem? Everything. We'll talk in a later day episode when I'll analyze the consumption problems of China. There are many issues. They're all interconnected. The tariffs is one part of the story. Now, Michael Pettis, who I feel sitting, he's in Tsinghua University. He's sitting in China and he understands China very well. He says, China shows no sign of securing lasting victory in its battle with deflation. So now people are saying China is in deflation. How the GDP is growing is a question mark. It's a huge question mark. Because their own people are talking of deflation. A lack of demand remains the problem. The demand is either external or internal. Both are tanking. There's little hope of China beating deflationary dynamics unless it addresses the other side of the ledger too, excessive supply. If they reduce the supply, the GDP will go down. They have to accept, but they are not accepting it. I'll prove that. Why then? How they are not accepting it? Look at this. Sales of top 100 builders fall over 13% in the first 7 months of this year. So the real estate, which still is the sheet anchor of China's economy, it has not shifted out. Suffering very badly. Top 100 builders is quite a bit. Now, the Politburo has met recently, right? Xi Jinping has chaired this Politburo and met recently to see how they can get out of this economic mess. But everyone says we should get out of it, we should get out of it, we should get out of it. But is there a cogent way forward? No. None of them have the capability or the guts to say our GDP will go down. If they say the GDP will go down at the cost of the GDP, then the fundamental equation between the party and the people will break. They don't have the guts to do that. If they can't do that, they have to continue what they're doing. If they continue what they're doing, they're involuting. Right? You have to read all these in detail to understand. Now, this is yesterday, this headline. China's factory activity unexpectedly worsens as exports stumble. Thanks to Trump, exports have gone down. Exports have gone down not only because thanks to Trump, the factories are closing. They're gone down. And this is yesterday's news. And this is every month released. And China monitors it very closely. But not only China, it's published internationally. This is not, and many channels which follow China's economy go by these figures. And to my way of looking at it, these are itself inflated. Now they can't lie about it openly because then they don't have solutions to it. Then people will, if they apply certain solutions to the problem, people will say, yeah, on one hand you're saying the economy is doing well, on the other hand you're giving solutions for an economy which is doing badly. And then the trust in China will go even further down. So they actually caught. So they come out. These days, what you come out, you have to discern to see what exactly is right or wrong in what the way China reports. But you can make out where it is. Where is Shenzhen? It's supposed to be their industrial hub and electronics hub and export hub and all that after Shanghai. They are having their first pilot personal bankruptcy scheme. Corporate bankruptcy happens, industrial bankruptcy happens. So when you have taken a loan as a factory or as a corporation from a bank and you can't repay them, you say I'm bankrupt. So then the bank takes over that whole setup. And then they go through a internal, they go through the IBC process. And then they find another buyer who will take over this bankrupt business with a haircut and it is sold. That is for corporate factories, big organizations. But here, if you see this is on personal banking, personal bankruptcy. People are going bank. People are now declaring themselves as bankrupt. They can't pay what they have taken. That's the interesting part here. Now, to cap it, today China is going through huge losses in their floods. If you think this is only one part of the Chinese economy, no, there is another part. Beijing is affected. Major cities are affected. I can keep showing you videos about how their cities are swimming. It happens. This is the time when floods happen in China. But if you see the videos which are coming out, and very few are coming out after all, but the damage they're doing to the Chinese economy is huge. I keep quoting this again and again. If you are sitting next to a beach in a hut and floods happen, your hut gets blown away, first class. Tomorrow you will go climb a palm tree, come down, get some palm fronds, make a hut. End of story, you're up and out. But if you have a skyscraper there on the beach and floods come or tsunami comes and it is broken, where do you have the money to build that skyscraper again? It's huge. Replacement cost. So China, because of the way they built their cities, poor infrastructure, poor design of the infrastructure, they're suffering huge losses due to floods. Every year there's one city which is flooding. Big. And Beijing, second time in a row. Last year also they had problems. This year. In fact, last year to stave off floods from Beijing, they diverted the floods to somewhere else and someone else suffered. But they suffered. This year also they'll suffer. This year they have not been able to handle diverting. It is not only Beijing, there are other whole lot of cities which I don't even know of are getting flooded and they're suffering. It's economy. Okay. And then now they're still looking at infrastructure. They're making new airports on one pretext or the other. And these are the airports which, on this, for example, this particular story talks of an airport being built along its northern border with Russia in the hope that it will improve relationship or rather trade with Russia. Hope. It's all a gamble. And if you think this dam at Medog, okay, is all about electricity generation, all that. I mean, this is going to start. It's just started. It's going to go on for the next 20 years. It's not going to be a one-day affair. Everyone is thinking as if it's going to happen today. No, it's going to be a 20-day affair. We'll see how it happens. But that is a mega infrastructure project which is going to drive up that GDP. Will it get the output out of this is a question mark. I have my question marks on whether China will be able to get the electricity it thinks it will get out of it. And then transport it to over 2,000 kilometers to Yunnan, Shunan and all, which are anywhere, those parts which are underdeveloped. What will it do? That's a different story. The economic viability of the dam is a question mark. But the cost involved is there. The GDP is being driven by infrastructure. And the track record of China is that all the infrastructure it has done, beyond a point, it has become wasteful. Replacement costs are increasing, as I said. Now, you talk of all ambitions. China is going to become the biggest satellite player in the world. Maximum coverage, all that. Look at this. Their Qianfan satellite network, which was supposed to rival Starlink, it is failing. So if you think this involution, is only for these high-tech products and low-tech products or whatever it is, they're failing in space also. They'll fail in AI also. They'll fail because who will take their AI? I will not trust their AI. So you see that there's a huge underbelly in China, which is a problem. Now, to add to their problems, there are countries which are challenging them in their overseas areas where they're getting minerals. Now, Trump is mineral crazy. That's why he's gone to Pakistan. No, Pakistan is not the only place you get minerals. There are other places. This is in Democratic Republic of Congo, Africa, where there's a competition on. China was given a free run till now on cobalt and other minerals which was being brought there. Now, China has stepped in. France has stepped in. Even Japan has stepped in there. But that hasn't stopped Xi Jinping from giving high-tech military call. Despite the fact that they're hemorrhaging. They're hemorrhaging internally. The PLA is hemorrhaging big time with the leadership. The CMC is still only 3 people. They've launched a child care subsidy for increasing their baby output. If you go into this to tackle their demographic crisis, they're going to give some 3,000 yuan per year. People are saying that 3,000 yuan se kuch nahi hota. They're quoting Japan. Japan gives this subsidy till the boy or girl is 18 years old. People say, after 3 years, what will I do with that baby? Here, they're giving it only for 3 years subsidy. He says, after the 3 years, what will I do? I still have to send him to college. I have to take care of him. I don't have capability. So this is not going to happen. And so the remedial measures are all half-baked. And then these stories are coming out. Huge stories of people now are working. This is a story. If you see this, it's very heart-wrenching. There's a girl, there's a lady who's doing a courier job. Her husband also is a courier. He does full time, and this lady does part time. Okay, like Swiggy, Piggy, and all that. And she goes around delivering pizzas and all with a baby who's got cancer. And at times with the saline drip or whatever the drip is going in, with that she goes. I mean, when you look at the whole story of China today, it's in a very, very, very bad shape. I mean, I have no doubt left in my mind. Now, this is the China which we have to deal with. Right. Now, let me get back to tariffs, India's options, China, and all. So, when we start dealing with China, we have to be very clear. Look, what are your pressure points on China, which you have to keep to ensure that they respond to what you want? Or when they demand something from us in return to what we go to them, how do you handle it? You'll never know how to handle it if you don't know what's happening in China. That's why I focus too much on China. Naturally, there is going to be a discussion in India whether we should stick with America or go to China, or the ding dong battle we have to do and all that. And that I'll talk in the evening. Between Russia and China, between India and China, and maybe even RIC, how are we going to handle this whole story? After all, some uh, lead has already been taken with China, and I spoke about it about now nearly about 3 weeks back. I said, "Is RIC the solution?" If you remember, and much before everyone spoke of RIC, I started looking at RIC. So we'll see. Now, don't give too much credence to this Pakistan. Okay, let me now talk about oil in Pakistan because that has to be clarified. Oil in Pakistan, uh, people say it's there. There are two places people talk of oil in Pakistan. One is in the Indus Basin offshore, and one in the area of Balochistan. Now, Indus Basin oil in Pakistan, 5 years back, 6 years back, Imran came. Imran Khan, when he was the prime minister, he made big announcements. Oh, खुदा अगर हमारे लिए देन है, तो हम अमीर बन जाएंगे, and things like that. And I'll put out a video along with this part later. Now, he gave a speech and all, and I still remember at the end of this, news clip, that newscaster saying, "Let what Koda Pahad Nikla Chuha." Nothing happened. They didn't have money. They spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of money with a couple of American firms to do some preliminary drilling. Nothing came out from there, and they still owe that money. Pakistan has not repaid. Oh, this guy Trump is talking of shale oil and shale gas in Balochistan. Who'll invest into it? Who'll dig into it? In Balochistan, which is a restive place, is $1 million question. It's a huge $1 million question. Okay, because and already Baluch people have said, okay, you come and do this, we'll try do something. But the bigger problem is if you want shale oil out and shale gas out, you need water, which is not there in Balochistan. How will you get water? There's no water for even Gwadar. There's no water for their thermal projects, nothing. So what do you get in Balochistan? So this entire business of oil from Pakistan is a hoax. Trump is just talking for the sake of talking. There's disbelief within Pakistan itself about tail. And not only that, there's something which is now coming out. Pakistan gets oil from Saudi Arabia. And they go, mange tange ka zindagi hai unka. So they go to Saudi Arabia, beg for oil. Saudi Arabia gives them oil. these chaps can't pay, that is rolled over as loan or given as ultimately grant and all that. So now this chap, that Munir, when he went to met Trump and all that, he made a deal on oil. One of the thing which is coming out is there's some oil deal, and so Pakistan is now to buy some oil from USA, and that's going to be at 8 to 10% more than what they're already paying. So will Pakistan, which is now stuck with USA, it's a costly bargain. And USA says, now you pay more and take oil from me. Don't take from others. So Pakistan itself is stuck. All this big talk of tail shale is this thing, tail lag gaya Pakistan ko. So that is where Pakistan is. We shouldn't give too much credence to that. But we will discuss Trump, India, and China in the evening. Till then, thanks a lot for joining in, all of you.